Okay, according to my computer's clock, it is 11 a.m. and time to start the webinar. I'll start a little bit slowly so people can catch up. Uh, but welcome to another Map Business Online Community Business Mapping webinar. I want you all to know that we greatly appreciate your taking the time out of your busy day to take a look at some details about Map Business Online. It's very important to us, and we do appreciate it. Today we're going to talk about accessing demographic data in Map Business Online. I'm going to go through all the different points that I'm aware of where we can access demographic data. And then if you have questions, feel free to email me anything. Typically, these webinars go over the half-hour limit. I try and keep it to about a half an hour because I think that's enough time for us to take out of your day. But, you know, feel free to send questions if we don't cover something that you're interested in learning about. One of the functions that's most sought after within Map Business Online is the software's library of Census Bureau demographic data layers. The library consists of almost 3,000 layers of data, and it includes hundreds of categories of over 8 years of published records. So demographic data is available for Canada as well as the USA. However, Canada is not as generous with the layers that they provide. And so we get what we can and we put it out there, but the USA data is a whole lot more interesting than the Canadian data at this point in time. So demographic data and maps go together really well. Demographic data is presented in Map Business Online by census tract, by county, by state, by zip code. I think there's MSAs in there. So pretty much any of the map layers that represent an area will give you the ability to access demographic data. Administrative districts and areas of interest can be color-coded by demographic makeup, so you can create thematic maps. Demographic characteristics can be collected by regions to develop area profiles in sort of an analysis form, which can be then exported. So our source is the Census Bureau's American Census Survey, and you can go online and read about that. We feel that's a pretty accurate source. So the American Census Survey gathers and updates the decennial census on a regular basis. So they go out and get it at the 10-year point, which they're going to do right now for the next 10 years. And then they release updates against that. And we grab that as soon as we can get it, and then we put it into our schedule to post it for you on the cloud. And there is a process to that, so it takes a little bit of time for the Census Bureau to get their stuff together, and then we grab it and put it in our system to be updated. And it happens maybe 2 times a year, sometimes less, sometimes more. The most recent 2 years that we put out there, so by year, so you'll see as we go through this that the 2019 and the 2018 data, those are third-party projections that we get from a third party. So that's not directly from the census, but that's to cover more recent timeframes. People were asking for that, so we've inserted those 2 projections, and those change. So when 2020 becomes available as a projection, then you'll have 2020 and 2019 will be projection years, and the balance will be direct from the census. Census demographic data is an estimate. You have to keep that in mind. Sometimes people get really obsessed with having all sorts of numbers match all sorts of numbers, and you have to be careful what years you're looking at, whether it's the American Census Survey or some other census release that you're comparing us to. But if your boss insists on some sort of an exact number, hand him a clipboard and a calculator and a car and tell him to go get it, because data is generally an estimate when you're dealing with demographics. That was a boss joke. Map Business Online is updated regularly, as I mentioned, based on census releases. And let us know if there are layers that you require that we do not publish, because we look at this a lot, and you may come up with some ideas for demographic data that you know is out there that we haven't put out there yet. So demographic categories in general are population related, like age, gender, ethnicity, income related, like median household income, income levels, expendable income, and then there's consumer expenditure related data out there. Those are the major areas that we cover in demographic data, and I'm going to scroll through it so you'll see it in short order here. Visualization and reporting is what you can do with demographic data. You can make map visualizations and you can generate reports. Maps use shapes and symbols, labels, and layers to tell a story. Map visualizations sell to and inform your map audience, and all of these approaches access demographic data collections by regions, and they're exportable. We can also create business area profiles that can be extrapolated to expose similar areas across the nation. So marketing profiles in one area where you're having some success can be extrapolated to expose new markets in other areas. Market analysis, political analysis, business planning, strategic planning, these all use demographic data. And so now we're going to go to the maps. I'll get rid of PowerPoint. So Map Business Online, I'm using the base map for National Geographic that we've got as an option down here. And the base map, I like it better. That's why I use it. I think it's easier on the eyes. So the first area that I'd like to talk about where we can access demographic data is called the summary button. And what I'm going to do is select a county on my county layer. I have my county layer up. I've selected one county, one map object. It could be a zip code, it could be a state, it could be a city limit, and it could be a census tract. But you can select those areas, those map objects on the map, or a group of them, and a mini toolbar will show up. And right in the middle of that is the sigma, the Greek letter sigma, which is a sideways E or M, however you want to look at it. And if you click that, that's the summary button for accessing demographic data. The summary button will show you a dialog, and immediately you can see demographic data is available. And there's other things available too. We're going to talk about calculated data. We've got imported data. So that's all data that's available in the summary button, but the demographic data shows up right away. And so let's just scroll through it. It's a lot of data. So at first it's population, that's 2019. So it's a projection. And as you go down further, we get to, you can see the household information, race, ethnicity. Oh, let me just keep going here. And you go past 2019 into consumer expenditures. And now we're into 2018. Those first 2 years, projections. And then as we go down and get into 2017 and beyond, those are direct from the census. All the same categories for the most part, but that's how they kind of show up. Now, I've already pulled some data over here, so I'm just going to show you that you can grab up to 10 layers for the summary operation here and bring it over, and then click next to create a little data sheet that you can export right out. You can see here, export to file. You can export that out as a CSV file that goes out to your desktop. And I've thought ahead here, and I've got a little Excel spreadsheet here just for you to review. So those first 3 categories I exported out. I was using another county, so they don't match from here to there. But when you get them in Excel format, they're just going to look like this. Population, household, consumer expenditure. What we've got in the next column is the quantity related to the category. So it's important that you understand population, 3,085 in that particular county, that's the number of people. Households, when it says 44, there's an income level involved here, but it's households that we're looking at. So it's the number of households associated with that income in that county. And then the last one was consumer expenditure, which is, in this particular case, was food per household. And that was the dollar value, the $5,497 that are spent on that expenditure per year in dollars. So if it was Canada, it'd be Canadian dollars. In the US, it's US dollars. When you do a map object like a circle on the map, and you get that summary button. We don't need to do anything further in terms of searching for data. But if we hit that summary button and we bring in some information for demographic purposes here, you can see we also have the ability to add that to the map. Just wanted to show you that. That's a quick little down and dirty way to get demographic data through the summary button on a map object. Now the next process we want to look at is called color code map. Up here on the master toolbar is the color code map button, and then down here, if we go to the county layer and we click the edit gear in map and data, we've got the same button, color code map. Pretty much the same functionality. Under the county level, let's go in here with this button, and we're going to choose counties. I'm going to click next. We're color coding our counties in the background by some sort of data. And the first thing that comes up is demographic data. And I've already processed it through once, so these are housing units. So when I go back, it's there for me to just take it as is. And I could change my numeric values here if I wanted to. I can change my colors. I'm sure a lot of you have used this. There's a lot of ranges. You can go up to 100 ranges for a variety of colors and a variety of numeric groupings. But I'm just going to go with that. So you can see the access to the demographic data is there. And then there it all is. And you also have access to some of the other data sets as well. And we click done. I click that right. And now the background is color coded based on demographic data. And that should show up here in the legend. And if it doesn't, it's because I've got that layer shut off. And I'll just turn it on. There we go. So now it shows up in the legend as well. And you can edit all that language in the legend. So you've got access to color coding by demographic data. And let's go to zip code now and look at the same functionality. So I've turned on my zip code layer, which I have pre-color coded based on, and let's go to the color coding scheme here in the map and data tab so that we're going at that button. Instead of up here, we'll just do it down here so I can show you that it does work in a similar way. And here's that color coding scheme here, and it's done based on demographic data. But this time, instead of just going direct to the demographic data, I went to the calculated data column, and so we're going to look at that next. And I wanted to just point out that any of the map layers that we have here in map and data can access all of this functionality in the same way, but they are independent. And so we're going to color code zip codes here by manage calculated data columns. So we're going to click this button. And here you can see I have arranged several calculated data columns, which are accessing demographic data in order to develop a calculated formula-based arrangement of demographic data. And I've got a couple of them here, one by color and one by label. And so how you do that is you click on Add Data Column, and then you go in and name it. You choose how your formula is going to be presented. Is it a number or is it a percentage? Like go back to 8th grade algebra. Remember how percentage is calculated? We help you do that. And then, or it could be a currency. You have control over the number of places and the number of decimals, and you can just simply bring things over. Everybody's favorite one is the old folks in the US from ages 65 up to 85. I just held down the shift control key and I can bring them all over. That will give you a summary right there of all of the old folks in the United States. And I can also do a divide and multiply function as well. Bring in some more down here and I'll show you how that works. So let's close that. Here's some of the ones that I've made already. The background of red and blue is based on this ratio of female population. I'm going to click the edit here and open up this. So the ratio of female voters, or population really, from 2019 to 2016. On the top, I brought over females from ages 20 through 50, and I brought the same thing on the bottom, but the years are different. So I get a ratio. From that, I go back to color code map, and I grab that data from my calculated data option. So you can see I have demographic data there. I've got my imported data, but I'm grabbing the calculated data, and there it is. That's what I wanted to choose, was a ratio female from one year to another. And I think I could have maybe just done 2 options here, but I did 3, just to keep the blue at 1 or below, and then the red at 1 and above. And when I got done, it looked like this. So it gives you a sense in any zip code, has the population of that age group of females gone up or down. Just get rid of this little. I select it. There it is. Now, the other thing that I did for accessing demographic data in this same level of functionality was I put the percentage of male population out of the total population here in the label. So the label is another spot where you can grab demographic data. So if we go back to the map, you can see when I hover over a zip code, it brings up that ratio female to female. That's a custom label when it pops up like that. The label that you see here, which has got the zip code noted and then the added information for percent male, that is an auto label. So let's go to the button where it says we got label tab. So we're in map and data, under zip codes, label, format label. And here's the controls for custom label customizing. And we're in auto label. And down here is where I have my access to demographic data here and my calculated data, which is what I used for this. Now there are 5 flexible fields in the auto label and in the custom label options. So you've got some room here to actually put quite a bit of information. And all I did was I went in and grabbed my calculated data, and I grabbed my particular formula that I made, and I did type in, the male, percent male, as sort of a little subtitle to the operation, and then I changed my labels, and that's where it comes up as a label option on the map. So that gives us summary button, color code map options, calculated data options, and labeling. So those are 4 major places where you can grab demographic data and make it work for your map view. The next thing I'd like to talk about are territories. So MapBusinessOnline's territory capabilities are really powerful. And when you build a territory, and here I've got 2 of them pre-built, the data window pops up, and it provides for you a territory analysis view. And here we have our 2 territories, territory 1 and 2, here listed here. And I am going to just drill in to my first territory. So when you build a territory, up comes this view of the territory. And because it's based on counties, I have a FIPS column, I have a state abbreviation column, and I have a name function. We can add things to that, like demographic data. And the magic button to do that is this one down here. One of the most powerful functions in MapBusinessOnline is that More Data button. So I could just move my FIPS code over and get rid of it, or bring it back in. It's always there for me to manipulate. I'm just using a little database manipulation tool here. The access to extra data is here in the drop-down, and you can see my demographic data is here, my calculated data that I made based on county. So there's the old folks at home. I can bring that right over. I can bring in demographic information that might be pertinent to my analysis, and I can bring in information from a data set that I've pulled over. And I can set that data column just like that. And now I've got the ability to export that as a report, and it'll come out as a CSV file. That's the export button right there. So there's the power where you've got a territory that you can manipulate yourself and add all sorts of demographic data and other data and create a report for your boss or for monthly reporting, whatever it is you guys do. For territory analysis, you'll notice down at the bottom, you've got that ability to total things. So access to territory demographic data happens that way. I do want to point out while we're looking at this that the territory does have that summary button. So you could go in and grab a summary based on territories as well. You could also go in and, color code the map view, and you do that over here. So you do have the ability to color code your territories under General, here, color code territory later, by demographic data. So that's kind of neat too at times. Let me just look at my list here. So the next thing that I think is important for us to look at from the standpoint of where demographic data is available, if we go back into that territory view, there is a filter button, and this is available anywhere in the data window when you've got, regardless of what layer you've got chosen, you've got a filter button. And when you click that filter button, it opens up another dialog, and right away you can see there's demographic data available. So I could look at these counties and decide I only want to view counties with a population greater than 2,500. Let's see what happens if I put that in there, my filter. So that gives me 8 out of the 3,220 counties around the country that fall into that category for this particular analysis, and I can, again, export that out. Just so you can see that I did filter it, I'm going to just delete the filter, click filter, and now we're back to 11 counties. So the filter button is another way that you can access demographic data and export that out. Those are all of the ways that you can access demographic data in MapBusinessOnline Standard. MapBusinessOnline Standard is included in MapBusinessOnline Pro. So if you've got Pro, all of those access points are available to you. Pro opens up this capability here. It provides things like the ability to import up to 250,000 records per map. It actually offers region and division support. So you can see I've got a region here made out of these two territories. So I have a region support, and that works exactly like territories. So in Pro, if you've built a region, then you can select that region and you can access demographic data just like we did. There it is right there. So Pro has that same capabilities for regions and divisions. But Pro also has a market analysis tab, and that opens up a series of, I think it's 9 different options here that you can pull from to do a lot of analysis. And the first grouping, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think, where is it here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those first 5 are not focused on demographic data. They're focused more on building areas of interest based on drive times and multiple radius views. There's a lot of functionality there that we're not going to go into today. I do have another webinar on that. But down below, there are 2 functions that do access demographic data. Now I'm going to click on Summarize Demographics first. So in this case, if you've created a data set within MapBusinessOnline, and maybe you've created it from something you've imported, or maybe you've created a data set using just MapBusinessOnline to generate some filtering of data, you can take that data and select it up here. And in this case, I'm going to use my dealer data set, which I've imported. Those are those orange dots. And you can append demographic data to that imported data set. So in this case, I've already got access to demographic data here that I've pulled in, but it works just like it did in any other area. You can decide the radius around those orange points on the map that you want to query. You can put a circle around them if you want, and then you click next, and it says it's done, and it brings up that data set. And you can see here, I've got population, household, and consumer expenditures added to that data set ready for export. And if you want to do it, if you want more than just 3, then all you need to do is go back and do it again. So if I went back to that same data set now, which was summarized, sorry, I clicked the wrong one there. Summarize demographics. And we wanted to grab a couple of different ones. Let's just go down and get some consumer expenditures and occupation stuff and some other wacky thing, and then go through it again. Good, done. Now you get more of it. You could do that all day. So that's a good way for you to get information added to a data set that needs to have demographic data added to it. Export that out as a CSV file and open it from within Excel. And then finally, if we go all the way to the bottom, this is a kind of a similar thing where we're enriching a data set. So my dealer data set, I can enrich further by adding geographic data to it. So city limits, counties, states, zip codes. I can add a column for that and then go down below and again have access to demographic data up to 3 different categories and export that data out. And it just is another way for you to add information and data to the original data set. But this time it's going to have some geography columns added to it. So it might be zip codes or counties, or I think it was state abbreviation or something like that. So it's another way for you to access data in Map Business Online. And I'm looking at a question that Matt had. Do you have demographic data based on home values? I don't believe we've got home value data at this point in time. I think there's some general home data. Let's just take a look here. If I go to the summary button, there may be like number of homes. Seems like there's some information in here. This ethnicity. But that is really more of a real estate question. There's housing units. So you've got housing units. It's not based on values, though. Well, there's housing units median value there. So there's contract rent. So those would be units that are under rent. That's median value. So that might get you partway there, but I'm guessing you want more detail than that. But I believe that's what we've got in there right now for housing units, and we'll take that into consideration as we look for more data to bring into the demographic data offering here. I think that's it. So that's pretty much what I wanted to achieve in a half hour, letting people understand that Map Business Online has a wide variety of demographic data in there that's accessible for you. I hope you got something out of the webinar. There'll be a version of it available for you to review in a couple of days. It takes Webinar Jam a couple of days to process their webinars, but I really appreciate you, everybody taking the time to watch the webinar this morning, and stay healthy and have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Gina Rosenberg just asked a question. I'm going to try and answer it here. So is there demographic data by gender and age? So when you look at the data, you'll see as we go down through population, one of the first things that comes up is population by years, so ages. And then there's population by gender. And I don't believe we have a mix. Well, here we've got male under 5 years, male 5 to 9. So there is gender and age. there's female. So I think that answers that question, and that would be available for all those categories. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. Thank you.